So, I've been interested in blended learning for a long time now. Um, just have not worked until now at a school that had the technology available consistently for me to kind of push into it full force. The school I'm at currently, just this year, has finally got to one-on-one with iPads, which not my preferred choice of technology, but it's still better than what I had at my previous school. And I just picked up this book this summer, actually before this class started, and it's called Blended, Disruptive Innovation to Improve Schools. And it's an informational book. It's not a light read. There's a lot of content in here, but it goes step by step through what blended learning is, how it's different from the traditional classroom, and how to actually go about incorporating this into your classroom. And it starts with a question about, the main question of the book is online learning a good thing, or should we be protecting our traditional brick and mortar schools? And it attempts to answer that question by providing you with little examples of schools that are incorporating blended learning, and then of course schools that are holding to and doing well with traditional models of teaching. The other big thing at the start of this book talks about why this has become a thing, and one of the statistics that I was unaware of was about the dropout rate. And it's not the rate itself, but it's why kids drop out. Roughly half of all kids who drop out of high school don't drop out because they're struggling, they drop out because they're bored. And when I read that, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. But it kind of makes sense. I struggle with that all the time. You have a lot of gifted and talented students that come through your doors every year, and even students who aren't necessarily on an IEP, but they're very bright individuals and can move much faster than the average kid. And so the push for and the acceptance of blended learning becoming more mainstream has come from two things. One, the idea that we now know this factory style of learning, we shoot towards the middle, and we know that there are plenty of kids who learn a lot faster and plenty of kids who learn at a much slower pace. And the answer to that was originally this idea of differentiation. That was probably the big push when I was in college and my first school, building studies with differentiation, guest speakers, and I really worked hard to try and implement that. But the book hit home exactly how I felt, trying to, as one teacher with 25-ish kids in a classroom, to differentiate without technology was impossible. Maybe there are teachers out there that can do it, but it is hard. But with technology, with every kid having access to a device, this idea of blended learning can enhance this idea of differentiation and individualized education. It even gets into all of the different models of in blended learning, and talks about, will it become the norm, or will it kind of stay in this limbo where it's at now? And so, things that are very prominent right now, flipped instruction, that's actually, they have two different categories for it. One is disruptive blended learning, and the other is a hybrid. And flipped instruction is actually a hybrid. You still have the traditional classroom with the teacher and the hours of classes, that kind of thing. And so there's two different models, these hybrid models that take the system as is and you kind of enhance it with technology. But then they have these disruptive examples where these schools have just fully embraced blended learning. And they're doing things where they change the actual physical structure and layout of schools. The most disruptive one that changes the system as is I think it's called individualized rotation. And kids literally show up every day and they start in a cubicle hub, which sounds terrible at first, and they do a lot of their basic learning in this little cubicle with the computer that they've been assigned to, and then they branch out and go to teachers along the periphery of this hub, and they might work on projects, or they might need remediation, those kinds of things. The one thing, though, that's scary, I think, to a lot of people is that we've seen how technology can destroy certain fields. A couple examples. One, steamship killed off sailboats as an industry. The two things going on right now with banking, we have online banking, maybe destroying brick and mortar buildings, and then of course the electric car versus the gasoline powered car. Right now we're in this limbo stage with, like the Toyota Prius and its ability to go between both. And so those things they talk about in this book, this disruptive innovations and how they go about changing things. I haven't finished the book completely. Like I said, it goes into incredible detail on what blended learning is, the different models. The even cool part is they have these little QR codes. If I can find one, right here. QR codes that you can scan, and it shows you examples in schools of what it's talking about. So, wow, it's really incredible. I highly recommend it if you're looking for a way to really look at what it is and how to actually start to implement it.